מלך העולם אשר קידשנו מצוותיו וציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה. לעסוק בדברי תורה, לעסוק בדברי תורה. לעסוק בדברי תורה, לעסוק בדברי תורה. So there's always a little tzedakah. Just pass this around to some people. And someone gives it at the end of the night, take the money and give it to whatever charity you want, not the temple. Even temples should give charity. Let's pass this. Okay, let's recap where we were. I think we finished with Jacob becoming, we finished with Sodom. I know we did Sodom. Orlando, did we dealt with the binding of Isaac, right?
Yes.
Did we deal with the selling of the birthright to Jacob?
Yes.
Did we deal with, I just know where I am because I didn't mark it. Did we do Jacob's ladder?
No.
Okay. All right, so both a Tanakh or a Torah or any of those kind of texts.
Is it in English?
Well, it's in Hebrew too. I always prefer doing the Tanakh of our scroll because it is it's a direct Hebrew to English translation.
Oh, good.
So
What page?
we don't do pages. We don't because the pages change. And the Tanakh by JPS is also good.
Can I just say something?
Anything.
I'm Jewish, but I don't know anything.
That's
So
okay, we
when
missed
when
it.
you
Okay.
say something, I
got all
don't know.
Okay, that's why I was asking which one is.
Okay, that's okay. I don't expect that anyone knows anything.
Okay.
So we all learn together. That's what we do as Jews. So the answer is when we look for a page in the Tanakh.
This is the Tanakh?
Yes, we're gonna go. This is stuff we went over the last 2 weeks. Some of that basic stuff. So you'll watch the video and you'll be okay.
Okay.
But when we look at any book, you look at the book and it's the chapter
Okay.
and the verse. So the chapter 32, verse 14.
Okay,
As
and
an
where
example.
do you see that up?
You will see it up there. David,
Oh, I see, 32:14. That's
correct,
what
but
it
you're
is.
looking,
I
okay,
got it.
so this is commentary,
This is,
this is commentary, this is the actual text. So this is the book of, I don't have my glasses on. This is the book of Shemot, which is Exodus, and it tells you here what the chapter is to what verse. So you can find any,
okay.
right here, you know those chapters and verses in that book. Okay?
Okay,
It makes
so
it
we
sound
wanna
so
go
easy.
to.
So-
which book?
Alright, so we're gonna go to,
Genesis 27.
so we're gonna actually mark it. So, here we go. So we're gonna go to, we did do Sarah's death? Yes or no? Elena, we did Sarah's death, right? Okay, we did Rachel getting married. Did we talk about Jacob getting married? Okay, perfect. All right. So let's remember that Jacob.
Okay,
So we're gonna start it off roughly in chapter 28,
doesn't matter.
verse 10, in the book of Genesis. Okay. And let's recap for a second. Isaac dies, but he has passed his birthright, the heir, to Jacob. Jacob, whose name means heel or scoundrel, literally means a heel. Jacob has stolen the birthright from Esau, his brother. And he hasn't really stolen it because Esau sold it to him earlier on, but he's now the patriarch, he's scared, and so he's scared Esau is going to kill him as soon as the time of mourning is over, all right? And so he takes off, and he journeys to his uncle's place, Laban, who is Rebekah, his mother's brother. With me? Don't worry, you're going to catch up, don't worry. You will, don't do it. No stresses,
You
no stresses.
promise?
I promise. If you watch the videos, you'll catch up, and if not, you'll have a coffee with me and you'll catch up. It's not a stress. Alright, so we're going to begin with the Torah portion of Vayetze, which is really, this week's portion as well, which it has to do, it starts in chapter 28, verse number 10. Okay? And in this chapter, Jacob is now taken off. He's left the land of Isaac. He's running away. Okay? Someone please read chapter 28, verse 10. It's the beginning of Parsha Vayetze.
Jacob departed from Beersheba and went toward Haran. He encountered the place and spent the night there because the sun had set. He took from the stones of the place, which he arranged around his head, and lay down in that place. And he dreamt, and behold, a ladder was set earthward, and its top reached heavenward. And behold, angels of God were ascending and descending on it.
All right, what do we do? We did not do this last week, right?
No.
Okay. What did we learn from this? Remember, everything in Torah, the whole idea of taking this is that we think Jewishly. We no longer think Jewishly. We've grown up in this culture, and unless you're ultra-Orthodox, you don't think Jewishly, most of us. And you gotta relearn to think Jewishly, okay? Which means every word in Torah has a place and has a meaning. Not a word is out of place. So when it says that the angels, there's a ladder from earth to heaven. And what does it say? Read the line again of how the angels are going.
Descending and descending.
Which tells you, where do the angels come from?
Earth.
Earth, below.
We birth angels. Every time we do a good deed, every time we say a prayer, we birth angels. Every time at a wedding we clap, we sing, we yell, we're happy, hey, we birth angels. Come.
This way. Maybe not.
Well, whichever way you like.
No, I just want to block the camera.
The camera's not important. Since it says the angels were going, ascending and descending, it means that the angels start here. Now the word for angel, malch, actually means messenger. Angels were taught to have one leg. Have you ever heard that before?
Or what?
They have one leg.
I didn't know.
That's the teaching. And the reason is because they only have one purpose. They're a messenger of that one purpose. Michael, the angel Michael, his purpose is to praise God. Gabriel, his purpose is to the strength of God. Angels have just one leg. And we birth angels here by our good deeds. It's why at a wedding, I will say this all the time, scream, yell, every dance step you take of a hora in a wedding is birthing angels to bless the wedding couple. It's not happiness, Prager likes to say happiness is a serious business, he's right. It's hard, it's work for us, and we're supposed to do it. And Ivdu Hashem Simcha, the work of God is found in being happy. So, we learn here that the angels are going up. And what happens in this dream? God says to him, look, I will always bless you. We're here in Parsha Vayetze, 28:10. And it says, I will always bless you. The ground in which you're lying, I will give to you and to your descendants. And so Jacob wakes from his sleep, and he decides to call this place Bet-El, the house of God. And he takes a vow that God, if you're with me and you'll guard me on the way that I'm going, and you'll give me bread to eat and clothes to wear, and I return in peace to my father's house, and Hashem will be a God for me. And so he starts going. Now he ends up going to Laban. Laban is his uncle.
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
It's okay, I'm just moving forward. We're now in chapter 29, so it's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's easier to do a Reader's Digest Cliff Note version than just read all the text.
That's okay.
So Jacob goes to Laban, his uncle, and he immediately falls in love with Rachel. Okay, so we had, right? So we had Abraham, let's try a different color, and Sarah, okay? And they give birth to Isaac. And Isaac is with Rivka, or Rebecca. And they give birth to Esau and to Jacob. Okay? Jacob is now the patriarch. He's come in, he's leading. Now Jacob falls in love with Rachel. There's a problem. Rachel's the younger sister of Leah. I should probably put that in the right place. Okay? Rachel has a sister and her name is Leah. Jacob wants to marry Rachel. So he makes a deal with Laban that he's going to work for 7 years. 7 years? 7 years? 7 years. 7. And he's going to work for those years, and in order, at the end of the 7 years, he's going to marry Rachel. Does anyone know what happens after that? What's the story you learned? Okay, so tell me what the story is.
Bait and switch.
Tell me what the story is.
He ends up He's
He
in some
tricks
con-
him and
Yeah,
Right.
there's a trick and he
There's-
ends up.
basically the
drunk.
bride has the veil and he can't see the
Right,
face.
and
And it turns out he marries
older
Leia
sister,
instead
yeah.
of.
Well, he sleeps with Leia, therefore he's married to her.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, and therefore Jacob has to.
Work
Another
another
7
7
years.
years.
And he does it because he gets drunk, right? Let's think about this for a minute. He gets so drunk, he can't tell between the woman he loves and her sister. Yet he's still able to perform.
It was a long time ago. I mean,
Now,
how else could it be?
last I checked, when a man gets that drunk that he actually doesn't know who he's with, he might have some performance challenges.
Or
Is
fall
that a fair
asleep.
statement?
Or fall asleep.
Or fall asleep, or not, whatever, right?
I have to say, as a child hearing this story, I don't remember crossing this, but now it makes perfect sense.
Right.
Maybe he didn't care that much to
Right.
look.
I think he,
He's been working for her for 7 years, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but,
Yeah, but when you drink that much.
and when you're young, I mean, I don't know, I've had teenage boys.
He suddenly
in the
doesn't,
past.
he's not a teen, but he suddenly doesn't know, right? Yeah, but if they drink that much tequila, or whatever they were drinking in those times, I just come back from Mexico, so it's tequila tasting.
I
Little.
understand.
You missed the tequila conversation. But whatever he was drinking, right? So,
Kosher wine.
that's okay.
Did they have Herzog back then?
They did not. Joseph was, by the way, I want to recommend, if you have not been to the Herzog, it's right here in Oxnard. If you've not been to the restaurant Tierra Sur, it is the finest kosher restaurant in the country.
Where is that?
Oh,
There's some.
I've been there with my father-in-law. It wasn't bad, you're right.
It's, when we were in DC, and we were at the kosher restaurant in DC, they said, where do you normally go in town? I said, well, we're actually close to Tierra Sur. They said, oh my God, everyone knows about that. It's the best restaurant in the country.
Where is
It's
that?
in Oxnard. It's a kosher restaurant in Oxnard, and it's amazing.
Really, yeah, and it's, to drive by it, you wouldn't recognize it as being.
It's
a
part of the
restaurant.
winery.
Oh,
and-
part of the winery.
It's part of the
Yeah.
winery in
Oh,
Oxnard.
that one. That's in the industrial park.
Yeah, and
Ah.
most of their people come from places like the West Side and Beverly Hills,
Oh,
drive
yeah,
out for lunch, and half of them are not from.
Yeah.
They don't wear yarmulkes or anything, so you know they're not from. They're not observant. They come because they're foodies. They don't advertise as much in kosher magazines. They advertise in foodie magazines. So,
Yeah,
in
they
fact, I'm
have-
advertising them right now.
Do they have, yeah,
I've been there for wine, but I didn't even know it was kosher.
The restaurant is outrageous, outrageous. Anyhow, so no, they did not have, the Herzogs had not become the amazing vintners that they are now. So,
Isn't Rachel the one that wore veils?
no, Leia's wearing the veil.
But that's what I'm saying, if Leia's wearing the veil, how is he gonna recognize the
Well, there's-
difference?
Well, at some point, one would think,
He might not have been close enough to her
and
to be
that's,
able
all
to
those are legitimate stories.
get her
There's
smell.
another midrash that I think is on the one hand very adult, but also very beautiful. There is a teaching that, in fact, Leah and Rachel, they don't want to make Leah the old maid.
Right.
So Rachel and Leah, in the same way that Jacob fooled Isaac, when Jacob fools Isaac, because Isaac is blind,
he wears the.
and he wears the fur, the
Sheepskin.
clothes, so that it looks and feels he fools Isaac, right? Because he thinks he's blessing Esau, although he doesn't, as we discussed. In the same way, there's this story that's an interesting story about women empowerment and women love, that the two sisters make a deal that they switch.
That's what they say in the Red Tent, the novel.
I didn't read it. I understand it's very good, but it
It was
doesn't
very
explain
good.
it. And that they switch, and that Rachel's actually under the bed making the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the red tent as well? And
Yeah.
that Jacob hears Rachel.
Because Rachel had a big heart.
She has such a huge, huge love. Okay, interesting take on it. It also is a beautiful. I think it's a beautiful female empowerment story, and it's also karma for Jacob, which I kind of like too. So he works another 7 years, and he gets Rachel. But Rachel doesn't have. They have problems with children. Okay, Leah starts having birth. Rachel does not, and so Rachel gives her handmaid to Jacob to consort with, and then ultimately Leah gives her handmaid. Okay, and between them, between all of these, they have 13 children. Extremely important number.
Which one is Joseph, the last one? No,
Benjamin,
Joseph isn't.
Benjamin's the last one. And so, but they have 13 children. Now, this is not the order they're all born in, it's just, I remember the order from Jacob and or Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Okay, which is not, it was a horrible production, the last one they showed here in Thousand Oaks Civic, but it's a very good telling of the story of Joseph and of his sons. But they have all these sons, and he has Reuben, and Simeon, and Levi, Naphtali.
It's okay, you can sing the chorus.
Well, I haven't gotten to that. Issachar,
George,
Asher, and Dan. Zebulun, and Gad took the total to 9. Benjamin.
There are two things we did as children, or at least in high school. Everybody did West Side Story, and everybody did Joseph.
No one did West Side Story. Very few people did West Side Story.
I'm older than that.
That's a really hard show to pull off.
That's only 11.
We're not there yet.
Oh,
Boy.
I'm sorry.
I know, because I was concertmaster in high school when we pulled.
I didn't
pulled
say
off.
it was any good.
When we went, 4 of the guys from our orchestra actually went to Juilliard, so that's what they tried
It
to
was
do.
nobody from my high school.
But Joseph, everybody knows. You know, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat is the most performed show on the planet.
It was
I
also-
really think they
it was
had that
also
show
the
when I
first.
was in high
It's
school.
from their first. Yeah, great show. Great show. Were you in it?
What was the show?
Yeah,
Which one?
I came on at the end, I was short.
What show was
You were
this?
Pharaoh?
No. They trot at the very end, because I used to sing, but I couldn't do anything else. And I was on the shorter side, and you know, at the end, when he's reunited with all of his family, that's when they bring Benjamin out.
Oh.
Okay, so Benjamin and Judah and Joseph. This is not the order
But
of
he
them.
gets to sing.
And a daughter named Dinah. Okay?
That's where that came from. Dinah? Oh, I don't know where that name came from.
Now, from this, these are going to, from them, you're going to find the 12 tribes. These are not the names of the 12 tribes. Okay? But 13 is a very auspicious number in Judaism. The gematria, the numerical value, 13 is the numerical value of the word, as we learned, for love, ahava.
13. That is something you brought up last year.
Is this 1 plus 4?
No, it's 13 is love. It's the word for Hebrew, ahava, is aleph is 1, hey is 5, that is 2, hey is 5. It adds up to 13. It's like A being 1, B being 2, C being 3.
Okay.
We went through, I missed those 2 weeks. That's okay.
Sorry, I didn't know.
You don't have to be sorry. You're going to catch up. And if you don't, as I say, we'll have a coffee. It'll be easy.
So if these are not necessarily the names of the tribes,
Correct.
but your grandpa tells you that you're a Levite.
Correct. Some of them are the names of the tribes. Okay?
Yeah.
But from this, all right, eventually, he's a whole different color. Eventually, from Levi is going to come Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Okay? From this, eventually, from Benjamin is going to come Saul. And from Judah is going to come King David and Solomon. Okay? Way down centuries later. Okay? Those are their descendants. I'll put them in parentheses.
Oh, so it's not like they're kids.
No. Great, 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 great grandkids.
And Naphtali is now the name that is used for males and females.
You mean as a first name?
Right,
Yes. Any of these could be names for males or
right.
okay. So all of these are the names. Okay. Joseph is going to have 2 sons named Manasseh and Ephraim. And because of that, because of what he does, which we're going to learn about, I think, tonight, there's no tribe of Joseph, but there's a tribe of Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay? That would give you 13, but the Levites are not considered a tribe, they are separate. They're put outside because of the priests, ultimately.
So the Kohanim are where?
Levi.
Levi's. Oh.
All the Kohanim are all descended from Aaron. So I'll even put this, from Aaron comes all Kohanim. The priests. Okay. So they're these children they have. Now, Jacob does very, very well. Jacob is a master at knowing how to manipulate reality. Okay? He knows how to combine certain plants to create animals that have speckles or don't have speckles, or spots or don't have spots. He knows alchemy, for lack of a better term. He knows what are proper mixtures and what are improper mixtures. Okay? And so Jacob becomes very successful. He makes Laban very successful, and then he gets worried, he wants to go back home, number one, and number two, he's starting to get worried about how Laban is going to treat him, and so he leaves. Okay? And that's actually, again, in this week's Torah portion. He wants to leave, but he concludes his employment contract with Laban, and he leaves. And they go. Now, there's a problem with his going. The problem is, he's going back to Canaan. Not Canaan Road, but Canaan. And the problem with it is who's still in Canaan? It's really angry with him.
Esau.
His twin brother Esau. Okay? And he's very worried that Esau is going to kill him. So he splits his camp up. And that night, before he's going to see, the day before he's going to see, the next day he's going to see Esau. And he's already been told Esau's coming with lots of armed men and stuff like that. Would someone please turn to chapter 32, 23, and start to read. Your Bible, everything. Genesis, Bereshit, which is the actual name. 32, 20, chapter 32, verse 23. You know, there's only 3 chords in Joseph. Pretty much everything is a 1-4-5 pattern.
Well, I went to probably one of the worst high schools
Oh,
in Southern
that's where it
California.
says,
Which one
but
did
he
you go to
got
school?
up that
Tustin.
night?
That's it.
Is that
I
it?
didn't know
That's
that.
it.
Okay, go on.
I'm getting it. But he got up that night.
He
and
being
took-
Jacob, go on.
Took 2 wives, his 2 handmaids, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok.
At that point, Benjamin had not been born yet. Go on.
Okay, and when he took them and had them cross over the stream, he sent over his possessions.
Keep going.
Oh, okay, Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. When he perceived that he could not overcome him, he struck the socket of his hip. So Jacob's hip socket was dislocated as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for dawn has broken." And he said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." He said to him, "What is your name?" He replied, "Jacob." He said, "No longer will it be said that your name is Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with the divine and with man and have overcome." How did he overcome?
Because he was wrestling and he won.
Oh, okay. Then Jacob inquired, and he said, "Divulge, if you please, your name." And he said, "Why then do you inquire of my name?" And he blessed him there.
Okay, so let's look at this piece by piece. Because there's a lot of things that come out of this. Number one, he's wrestling with this angel. Why do we know it's an angel? Because the angel says you wrestle with the divine and man.
Yeah,
Well,
but it
physical
only
is
says man.
But clearly
He
it's
was left
more,
alone and a man wrestled.
and that's what he thinks, but it's also that you wrestle with the divine and man.
And it wasn't a giveaway that he had one leg.
I didn't see the one
What can you
leg.
do? It doesn't say.
No, I mean, I'm looking.
It's a great question,
I'm looking and there's no
So he
mention.
wrestles with this angel, this man, this divinity. And
Yeah, that's
it's a
kind
great
of
question,
handicap.
but, I guess I'm
One-legged
wrestling.
man's
I
name is
guess when
Eileen.
you're wrestling, you don't look down.
It's a
I hope not.
handicap when you're
so-
wrestling.
They only mentioned one hip socket.
So, now, this is really important.
Yeah,
Okay.
what's that?
Jacob, his hip is dislocated. Okay? Never walks perfectly again. First of all, I want to look at something. Remember we took that name of Yud Hey Vav and Hey, the 4-letter name of God. You'll find it in the handout. On like the 2nd or 3rd page what it looks like. If you do the handout, take one. And we made it vertical, and it looks like a human being. Remember, this is God's name. When you make it vertical, it looks like a human being. Now, if you look at that,
It must have been
this is the hip, isn't it?
his, yeah.
And it's an opening to get into God's name. It's one of the places to open in, to get in. Here's another one, right? Here's another one, right? So this is one of the places to get in. The hip.
I mean, that's Hebrew sideways?
Yeah, the Hebrew, it would look like this horizontally, but if you make it vertically, then it looks like this. We say that we're made in the image of God. We're in the image of God's name.
Ah,
Okay, so it comes in here. Let's do this again so you can really see this. If this is both the name of God and is the image of man, this angel makes the thing right there, the opening, doesn't it, in the hip. What part of a cow can you not eat? Cow's a kosher animal. What can you not eat?
I don't know.
The hip.
Really?
Anywhere the sciatica goes through. Okay? Which is why you can't get, up until recently, they do it by hand, and some people still say it's not kosher, but you can't get kosher filet mignon,
Yeah,
because it comes from here.
yeah, but you get a brisket that comes
You can get great brisket, you can get great ribs, but you can't get kosher filet mignon. So, if you are eating meat that is not kosher, let me back up. If by leaving that hip place as an open space, it allows us to access into our divinity, and to be more conscious of our being a manifestation of God's name. Everyone follow me that so far? Okay. If I close that off, you can't get in so easily, can you? Right? Everyone follow me?
You can get it in the
Go a
shoulders.
little
You
higher.
can still, but you can't get, it's not so easy now,
That's easily correct.
right? Okay. When you eat non-kosher meat, you are closing off the hay of God's name.
Okay.
That's why kosher meat literally changes, on a molecular level, your energy.
I just thought it was better.
Saltier, certainly.
Well,
But,
chicken.
but you also like, huh? But
So if I eat kosher meat, I'm gonna have your energy level.
I don't know that anyone would want my energy level, but the point is that kosher meat changes your energy. Now, you don't have to buy it, believe it, but try it for 3 months and see. I mean, that's my logic. Don't believe anything.
Is
Try it for
chicken
3 months.
kosher? Chicken's kosher.
We're going to get to kosher later on. Yes, chicken can be a kosher animal. Cow can be kosher, but not all cows are kosher. They're not slaughtered. But the chicken, you can eat the whole chicken, but here you can't eat this part. And it comes, the reason you can't eat the hip, the sciatica, comes from here. It actually comes from this passage. Okay, so what part of the meat you can't eat comes from all the way back. Does that make sense? That's how old it is. All right? Let's see what else it says.
So,
He takes his name. Remember the name Yaakov means a heel. A pseudonym for a scoundrel. Jacob is one who knows to manipulate his way around the world. He knows how to circumvent things. But his name is changed to Yisrael, he who triumphs, who wrestles and triumphs over God. Israel's this. Jacob's this. Jacob goes around the wall, Israel goes through the wall. Right? Does that make sense just in the names? The rest of the Bible, the rest of history, there are times that we are called Bnei Yaakov, the children of Jacob, and there are times we're called Bnei Israel. Same guy, right? Jacob and Israel is the same guy, just with a different name. Everyone following that? Mm-hmm. That means, why is the Torah, why is it not always referred to us as Bnei Yaakov or Bnei Israel? Why sometimes one and sometimes the other? It's a teaching. When it refers to us as Bnei Yaakov, it means that that's the times that we're supposed to use our...
I'll be flexible.
As opposed to when we're supposed to be Bnei Israel. Now, if you look at wrestling, if we saw two guys wrestling outside, okay? And who's ever seen Greco-Roman wrestling? Okay? Like in the Olympics or something, right?
That's right.
Two men are wrestling outside. and you don't know that they're wrestling, you might think what? That they're making love. Two people wrestling and two people making love look pretty much the same. Right? I mean, think about it. They're very intimate, they're moving all over, depending on how old they are, depends on how active wrestlers there are, okay? But it looks the same. Wrestling is not a distant sport. It is an intimate sport. Yaakov goes around things. Israel is intimate with God. That makes sense to everyone now? That's why sometimes we are the children of Jacob and sometimes we're the children of Israel. And a wise man knows when you should go like this and when you should go around, right? Well,
There are
Torah
times-
teaches us.
There are times to be Jacob and there's times to be Israel.
Exactly. One is not better than the other. They are different.
Okay, so when someone calls you a cold, it doesn't necessarily mean he's dissing you.
Not necessarily. You know, if I gotta negotiate, you wanna come about it as Jacob, right? You gotta fight, you wanna come about it as Israel. And sometimes you wanna come about it as Jacob. So all this is coming from this portion. All this is a text from what's going on here. Okay, from this piece, and we still see it today. Now, right after that, Jacob then goes and he meets Esau. And Esau says, I don't want anything from you, it's fine, don't worry about it. I'm not gonna hold a grudge. Right? There's a beautiful midrash. All of us have angels around us all the time. Jacob's angel goes and talks to Esau's angel and says, Esau's angel, tell your boy here, Esau, he doesn't want anything, leave Jacob alone. And so Esau's angel convinces Esau to leave Jacob alone. It's an important theology. What we do here in the physical world affects the spiritual world, which then affects a different physical world. Years ago, a long time ago, God, it's 25 years ago. Oh, yeah.
Like yesterday.
Yeah, it seems like it was 25 years ago. I asked my friend and teacher, Rabbi Abraham Greenbaum, who's one of the heads of the Breslov Hasidim, and a dear friend and a dear teacher. That's one I really love. And I said to him, you know, I've done a little bit of teaching, and this is a man who was a fellow at Cambridge, I mean, major scholar as well. And I asked Rabbi Abraham, you know, I want to do more teaching. So I asked him, you know, what would you recommend that I do so that I can be doing more teaching in the college world? Because I really liked it. I'm thinking he's going to say publish here, publish here, publish here. Lecture here, write here, etc. Let me pause for a moment. Michael, you need to celebrate Shabbos.
Okay.
That was sort of, yeah, huh? But Shabbos is not that you have to go to shul. Shabbos is not that you have to study. Shabbos is a day to give it away to God. Give it all to God. Okay? And really observe Shabbos. Really, really observe it. And the logic, and I did, by the way, because I think if you're going to go ask a teacher, you take his advice or don't ask for the advice. That's sort of my logic. Okay. So I did, and I will tell you the first Saturday around 11 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't wait for sunset to come. And the second Saturday about like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By 4 or 5 weeks into it, I didn't want sunset to show up. Okay, changes. But the idea is by making a commitment for spirituality in your physical world, like observing Shabbos, you're changing the spiritual reality, and that manifests in a different physical reality. Everyone see that? Okay? That's the same thing that's going on here. Jacob wrestles with the angel, his angel goes and talks to Esau's angel, which changes the entire physical dynamic and relationship between Esau and Jacob. Okay? Everyone following all that?
So everyone has their own personal angel.
Angels.
Angels,
Yeah. As well as we have collective angels, yes. And our tribe, the tribe of Israel, we have our angels. And you know what? The Goyim, they have their angels too. They're different angels. Some are the same, some are not. Okay? So, I know angelology. Wait till we get to Talmud when we start talking about angels and angelology. Didn't know that was in Judaism, did you? Okay? Or demonology. That's always fun to talk about. So they go, and this is what happens with Jacob. So Jacob goes, and we're going to move forward now to chapter 37. Everything is fine. He's in Canaan. And then Joseph, at the age of 17 years old, Joseph has the JFK Jr. syndrome. Okay? Joseph, Orlando likes that. Joseph is talented, and Joseph is smart, and Joseph is stunningly good looking, and Joseph is daddy's favorite. Because he's Rachel's son. Okay? So he's daddy's favorite. Now he's got 11 brothers. As you can imagine, they may not be such a fan that he is such an arrogant, he's talented, but that he's not exactly humble. Okay? And so Jacob has these sons. And if we look to chapter 37, verse 3, now it says, now Israel, right? So it says, Jacob settled in the land of his father's sojourns in the land of Canaan. And 2 verses later, it says, now Israel. So, right, it tells us different things about who it is. Loved Joseph more than all his sons, since he was a child of his old age, and he made him a fine woolen tunic, or as we like to call it, a coat of many colors. His brothers saw that it was he whom their father loved most of all his brothers, so they hated him, and they could not speak to him peaceably. So there's already jealousy. But Joseph has a gift, and from this one, we'll give a lecture later on, we'll do a talk on dreams. Dreams are a very important part of Judaism, and this is one of the places we see it. It says, someone please read chapter 37, verse 5.
Once,
Joseph dreamt a dream.
okay, once Joseph had a dream which he told to his brothers, and they hated him even more. He said to them, hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were binding sheaves in the field, when suddenly my sheaves stood up and remained upright. Then your sheaves gathered around and bowed low to my sheaf.
Okay? Your 11 sheaves of corn bow down to mine. Okay? Go on.
His brothers answered, do you mean to reign over us? Do you mean to rule over us? And they hated him even more for his talk about his dreams.
Okay? So you follow that? The idea is, all the brothers were bowing down to his sheaf of corn, therefore they're going to bow down to him. Right?
But this was his dream.
Correct.
So he's telling his brothers, I dreamt that you were bound down to, or corns, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Did not make them happy.
Yeah,
He's just saying, look at the dream I had, isn't this cool?
yeah,
Right?
right,
And they're like, you arrogant
yeah.
blankety blank. All right, go on. They do another dream.
Oh,
So, anyway, doesn't matter.
He dreamt another dream and related it to his brothers. And he said, look, I dreamt another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. And he related it to his father and to his brothers. His father scolded him and said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamt? Are we to come, I and your mother and your brothers, to bow down to you to the ground?
Okay, so the idea again, 11 stars being his 11 brothers, the sun and the moon being his father and mother bowing down to him.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Again, this does not make his brothers happy. Okay? So one day, they go out, and they're
Didn't
all...
make his father happy either.
Didn't make him happy, but, you know, this is still his favorite son, and let's go. And so, this goes on, and they go out, and they go shepherding. Okay? And they all are out, the 12 brothers are all out shepherding. And they said to one another, look, that dreamer is coming, so now, come and let us kill him. Throw him into one of the pits, and we will say, a wild beast devoured him. Then we shall see what will become of these dreams. Now Reuben heard this, and he rescued him from their hand. He said, we will not strike him mortally, we're not going to kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood. Throw him into this pit in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, intending to rescue him from their hand to return him to his father. That was Reuben's intention. Okay? And so it was, when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his fine woolen tunic that was on him, then they took him and cast him into the pit. The pit was empty, no water was in it, and they sat down to eat. And suddenly there was a caravan of Ishmaelites, people descended from Ishmael. Who was Ishmael? The other son of Abraham. And they sell him to Ishmael, to the Ishmaelites. And so he's now out, and then what do? They come home, they take his cloak, they smear it with blood, right? Do we know what kind of blood? Go on. Slaughtered it goatly and dipped the tunic in the blood. Okay? And they come home and they say, oh, Daddy, Daddy, we were attacked by this wild beast, but Joseph and his heroism saved us all, but he died doing it, and here's the cloak. And Jacob is miserable and mourns him, and it's horrible. Right? But now what happens to Joseph? The Ishmaelites go to Egypt. Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, the name for Egypt. Mitzar Yam, from the narrow sea. Narrow waters. It's the name Mitzrayim. Because the Nile is what it's all about. And they go to Egypt, and they sell him to a merchant, a banker, named Potiphar. And again, to learn the story better than any other way, just go on YouTube, watch the version of Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, starring Donny Osmond, and Joan Collins plays Potiphar's wife, and Richard Attenborough plays Jacob, and it's actually a lot of fun, and it's worth the time, and it's a lot of fun. That version, it's a great version. The version they had recently at the Thousand Oaks Civic last year was offensive to me. We did at the temple we all went to, and the director tried to do some things that were not appropriate, and then the director's no longer there. Now it's Patrick Cassidy who's the director of the theater. But so they go back, and he's there, and he's with Potiphar. Now Potiphar is this successful banker, successful merchant. And Joseph, because he's charismatic and good-looking and very intelligent, he rises quickly to the top of Potiphar's household. But there's a problem. Potiphar's got a wife, and she lusts after Joseph. Okay? How many of you have heard this story before, right? And so, yes, no, Celeste, you're looking like, no, okay. So she lusts after Joseph, and Joseph keeps saying, no. I'm not going to lay with you. It's not okay. I'm not going to do that. Right? This is all in chapter 39. Okay? And we see on verse 7, his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me. But he adamantly refused. He said to his master's wife, look, with me here, my master concerns himself about nothing in the house, and whatever he has placed in my custody. There's no one greater in this house than I, and he has denied me nothing but you, since you are his wife. How then can I perpetrate this great evil and have sinned against God? And she keeps coaxing, she keeps trying to seduce him, and he keeps saying no. Okay? And then one day, she catches his garment, saying, lie with me, but he still leaves. And she holds on to the garment as he leaves, goes outside. When she sees that he had left, she gets very upset, and she calls out to the men, basically saying, the Hebrew, he raped me. Okay? This entire scene is, remember we talked earlier on, that we need to spend a lot of time in Genesis looking at some of the primary stories because they are recapitulated, they're repeated in different forms and versions later on in the Bible. This is the same story that happens between Haman and Esther in Purim. Okay? Haman doesn't sleep with Esther, doesn't have sex with Esther, but she tells Ahasuerus, her husband, that he does. Same story, isn't it? Different version of it. And so, at that point, Potiphar is very upset and he throws him in jail. Okay? It's chapter 40. And he's in jail, and Pharaoh, who's in charge, the king of Egypt, and Pharaoh's name can be respelled out instead of Pharaoh to Pei-Ra, which means evil mouth. Okay?
Which means, I'm sorry.
Evil mouth. Pei is mouth, Ra is evil.
Okay? I misheard. Okay.
That's Pharaoh. Okay? I don't want to know what you heard, the way the look was.
No, I heard it right.
So Pharaoh is enraged, and two of his servants, the head of the cupbearer and a baker. And they show up in prison with him, and they each had a dream. And Joseph says, I'm pretty good at dreams. So tell me what was your dream? What is the dreaming that you had? Because I'm pretty good at understanding dreams. So the cupbearer says, in my dream, there was a grapevine in front of me, and there was wine, and Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the hands, and I pressed them into, there were three tendrils to this grapevine. I pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I placed the cup in Pharaoh's palm. And Joseph says, the three tendrils represent 3 days, and it means that in 3 days, Pharaoh's going to forgive you, and you will once again be his cupbearer. Okay? Baker also has a dream. In his dream, 3 wicker baskets were on his head, and they had all kinds of Pharaoh's foods, and birds were eating the basket from above his head. And Joseph says, I'm sorry, The baskets are also 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift your head from you and hang you on a tree, and birds will eat your flesh from you. And on the 3rd day, which is Pharaoh's birthday, they made a feast for his servants. He forgave the cupbearer, and he made the baker who was hung, just as Joseph had interpreted him. But the chamberlain of the cupbearers did not remember all this. Okay? Now I want you to look back to chapter 40, verse 14. This is after he interprets to the cupbearer what the dream means. Chapter 30, verse 14. I'm sorry, chapter 40, verse 14. I apologize.
40 verse what?
40, 14.
It says, if only,
If only. Go ahead.
only you would think of me with yourself. I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight line here. If only you would think of me with yourself when he benefits you, and you will do me a kindness, if you please, and mention me to Pharaoh. Then you would take me out of this building. For indeed I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing for them to have put me in the pit.
Okay, so he asked, think of me when it benefits you. Do me a kindness, please. He asked twice. Okay, let's see if this helps.
It will.
That's why I have the big books. Okay? It's important he asked twice. Should Joseph know better than to ask? Should he have just faith in God? We're all judged according to our potential.
We've been down this road before, that if you go through it once, I mean, it's almost not worth the consequences of asking a second time because of a lack of faith.
So he asked twice. Okay, just remember that as an aside. So, but the chamberlain of the cupbearers did not remember Joseph and forgot him. In chapter 41, verse 1, it happened at the end of 2 years to the day. People ask, why did Joseph stay in prison for 2 years? Because he didn't have faith in God. He asked twice. And so once for each year. We're judged according to who we are, not anyone else. Thank God none of us are judged according to Joseph. We're judged according to who we are and our capabilities, not other people's. But that means that someone like Moses is going to be judged more harshly than I am, thank God, right?
Why?
Because Moses has more wisdom. Moses knows more. Moses is more conscious
Oh,
of
I
the depths
see
of
what
his
you're
relationship
saying.
with God,
Oh, okay.
right? So, he knows. So it waits 2 years, to the day, and then Pharaoh has his dream. Now, if you haven't seen Joseph, this is probably the best scene in the entire show. It's where Joseph is the Elvis impersonator, or the Elvis impersonator is Joseph. Okay, it is, it's great, it's actually very fun, isn't it, when done right.
Elvis impersonator is Pharaoh.
It's Pharaoh, I'm sorry, you're right, it's Pharaoh, correct?
That's right.
So Pharaoh has these dreams, and he doesn't know what to do with the dreams, and suddenly, 2 years to the day, suddenly the cupbearer says, hey, I knew this guy who interpreted dreams really well in prison. Maybe he can help you. So Joseph comes and says, Pharaoh, how can I help? And Pharaoh relates his very powerful dreams. We find that first there are 7 beautiful cows, and then they're eaten by 7 thin, ugly cows. And then there are 7 beautiful ears of corn, and they're eaten by 7 thin ears that are scorched by the wind. They swap the 7 healthy ears. So he doesn't know, no one can tell him what the dream means. Joseph looks at it and he says, well, Pharaoh, what it means is you're going to have 7 really good years of prosperity, and then you're going to have 7 years of famine and drought. That's what your dream is. It's a prophetic dream, just like mine was years ago about the, he doesn't say this, but it's the same thing about the stars bowing down. He says you're going to have 7 years of good and everything's plentiful, and then 7 years of not so good. And really what this is a warning, what you should do is you should start saving during the 7 good years, so you got enough left over during the 7 bad years. Okay? And you really need someone who is smart and understands business and understands all these different things and who's charismatic and intelligent to help you with this process, because you're too busy being Pharaoh. And, you know, I think maybe you should find someone like that. Pharaoh says, you're right, and says, you're going to be in charge, and he becomes Pharaoh's number 2 guy. Okay? Everything is good, he's no longer a slave, he's no longer in prison, and everything is pretty good. And that's what happens. They have 7 good years, and then they have 7 very bad years in Egypt. Okay? And not just Egypt, but in Canaan as well. Before we go on with the rest of the story, let's think about something. And why the Egyptians really start to hate the Hebrews. Hebrew meaning, Ivri meaning someone who crosses over, who cross boundaries. That's what Hebrew means. In the case of crossing over the Jordan River or whatever it may be, cross boundaries. Why do they hate the Hebrews? Well, let's think about it for a moment. So, who are your parents? Which of your parents? Okay? Parent? Your parent? Okay, they're all parents. So now you've had 7 good years, everything's good, but now there's a year of famine. You don't know what to do, there's no food. But David over here has got tons and tons and tons of storage. There's tons of food.
Terabytes.
Okay, terabytes. He's done Bitcoin mining of food. Okay? Your children, God forbid, are starving. What are you going to do? You're going to come to him and he's going to maybe give you a loan. So you're going to pay me back in a year, a very heavy interest charge.
Well, that never goes well.
Okay? Now the year passes and you still don't have any food. So now you're going to come to him and you're going to come and say, okay, what do I need to give you? He goes, well, give me your house. I'll let you live there. You can become a sharecropper. So you can pay me back. And now it gets even worse. Well, okay, give me your land. Give me your fill in the blanks.
Become Mr. Potter.
And it's a wonderful life. So Mr. Potter, first thing I thought was Harry. But yes, you become, right? You become this, that's what, so now how do all of you feel towards him?
Jealous.
Not very good, right? Now remember, the Hebrews aren't going to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's not negotiating with all the people. Who's negotiating with them?
Joseph.
Joseph. So how do they feel about Joseph? Maybe not so nice. How does Pharaoh and his household feel about Joseph? They love him. Right? But underneath there's a whole mass of people who are none too happy with Joseph, this outsider who is now confiscating their land and their money and their cars and their DVDs and their Apples and iPhones and iPods and all that stuff. Right? Now you're going to have a resentment, aren't you? Does everyone follow that?
Mhm.
Makes sense?
Historically, I mean, that seems to be our downfall, is that for whatever the gift, whoever is in power hits a roadblock, borrows, becomes addicted to the convenience, and it filters down. I mean, whether you're talking,
Doesn't
who's
matter.
your favorite, William Norwich?
Yeah.
Or, you know, the Dutch, or whatever.
Doesn't matter, doesn't it?
Nobody reads history around here. Nobody reads Genesis.
Our lesson's very clear here, though, isn't
Nobody
it?
reads Genesis.
Okay? Lesson's very clear. And so, he is doing fine. People around him in Egypt may not like him so much, but they're going to be polite because he's in power. Right? Okay. What's going on in Canaan? They're also having a famine. And in Canaan, with this famine, they start to remember the good old days when Joseph was around. Remember, he's been now in jail. He's at Potiphar's house. He's been in jail for 2 more years. Then he's had now 14 more years. So he's not looking like the kid that they left anymore, right?
It's supposed to be like 30 or something.
He's in his 30s. Okay, because he's 17, and whatever the time, I forget the amount of time that he's at Potiphar's house, and then, but you add 2 to that, plus 14 is 16, plus the 7, he's at least in his mid-30s. Okay? Very different than the 17-year-old boy. So, what's going on in Canaan? We're saying, God, we really miss everything. We were missing that crazy, showing a brother of ours and his dreams that he used to have. At least they gave us entertainment. Okay? And there's this great scene again in that play that's this whole French cafe thing. It's, what the problem with the production I had, one of the many problems that they did at Thousand Oaks was that they decided to make that, instead about wine, they decided to make it about absinthe and the Green Fairy. Yeah, I told you it was a ridiculous horrible production. And they had one of the brothers dancing around in a green tutu as the absinthe fairy. way off. Anyhow, so they're remembering all this, but they hear that there is food in Egypt. So Jacob sends his brothers, sends the boys to the sons to go out. Behold, I've heard there are provisions. We need to go down there and purchase from us there, that we may live and not die. And so 10 brothers go, but Jacob does not let Benjamin go, because Benjamin was Joseph's brother, and Benjamin's the child. He loves him very much. He's the youngest one, Benny. And so they come, and Joseph is the provider of all the people, so they come to him. And what do? You see in chapter 42, verse 6, Joseph's brothers came and they bowed down to him, faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and he recognized him, but he acted like a stranger toward them and spoke with them harshly. From where do you come? From the land of Canaan to buy food? They did not recognize him. But he recalled the dreams that he had dreamed about them. So he said to them, you're spies! You're to see the land's nakedness. Have you come? No, they're saying. All of us, we are not spies. We're the servants. We are 12 brothers, the sons of one man. And Canaan, the youngest, is now with our father, and one is gone. Joseph keeps saying, you're spies, but I'll give you a way out of this. Okay? He heard them for a 3-day period. He goes, do this and live, because I fear God. If you are truthful brothers, let one of your brothers be imprisoned in your place of confinement, while you go and bring provisions for the hunger of your household. Then bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified and you will not die. So they do so. Okay? And they go and you know, they have this whole issue. All right? And they come back and they talk to Jacob, who really doesn't want Benjamin to go at all. But Reuben tells his father, you may slay my 2 sons if I fail to bring them back to you. Put them in my care, and I will return Benjamin to you. And my son will not go down for you, for his brother is dead. He's alone is left. And this goes on. It gets worse and worse in the famine, and the brothers say, please send us down with Benjamin, and we'll make sure that we can get food. And so Benjamin comes, and all the brothers are there. Okay? And he agrees to give them all food. He's very generous. And then he takes a little golden cup, and he hides it in Benjamin's sack. As they're about to leave, he says, wait, one of you is a thief. My little golden cup is missing. And they find it in Benjamin's sack. He says, you know, he's the one I'm going to imprison and do worse things to. Because he's also the brother that Joseph really cares about. This is the little brother, and this goes on. He's accused of being a thief, and he will be a slave, he says. But instead, every one of the brothers rends their garments, puts down everything, and they all say, look, don't take him, take us instead, take me instead. Okay? We were to be slaves to my Lord, both we and the one in whose hand the goblet was found. Because they don't believe it's going to happen. Judah says, please, may your servant speak a word of my Lord. Let not your anger flare up at your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. So Judah really steps forward and says, take me instead. Okay? At that point, Joseph realizes that his brothers have learned and now take care of each other. Okay? Now we go to chapter 45. Someone please read verse 1 of chapter 45.
Now Joseph could not restrain himself in the presence of all who stood before him. So he called out, remove everyone from before me.
Okay, so the line right before is Judah saying, for how can I go up to my father if the youth is not with me, lest I see the evil that will befall my father? So the same brothers that had no issue about killing him or selling him, he sees that they really have learned and they're good men, and he misses them and he loves them as well. And so go on. Remove everyone from before me.
Remove everyone from before me. Thus no one remained with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. He cried in a loud voice. Egypt heard, and Pharaoh's household heard.
Okay, so hold on a second. He made himself known, right? Before his brothers. Doesn't look like they're the brother that they lost. They don't believe he's the brother they lost. He's now in a position of power. What could he possibly do that would inspire them to believe he is their brother? That he would not do in front of anyone else in Pharaoh's household, and only in front of his other 11 brothers.
Well, there's this thing.
Go on.
It's all about the dreams.
No, it's not the dream.
No, it's about
Go on.
the bris.
Where's the circumcision?
Any Egyptian circumcised?
Nope.
Well, no.
So what's he do? He drops his trousers.
Yeah.
I'm your brother. No, you're not. Our brother is dead. No, I'm your brother. No, I'm not. You're not. Look, I'm your brother.
Yeah, works.
He made himself known. Doesn't say he had to say it to him. He made himself known. That's the easy way to find out, isn't it? Okay? And so, that's what we're taught happens, and he says, come be with me in Egypt, and everything is kind of being really good here. And they all go to Egypt, and they all move to Egypt. And now, all of them, and their children, and their families, everybody else is now in Egypt. Okay? So all of the Hebrews have now gone into the land of Mitzrayim, where they are all welcomed. He sends them gifts. Jacob comes. Everything is beautiful. Okay? The total of the 70 descendants, there's just a whole bunch of them. It just keeps going.
Oh, this is where they list everybody.
This is one of the places we list a lot of people, yes.
Where is that? Are they listed?
They start listing at 46, chapter 46.
Yeah, 46 around,
Because all the people who
Oh,
came.
yeah,
All the
yeah.
begots.
8.
These are all the people who go with Jacob, okay?
Oh,
They
okay.
start off,
So that's
all the
the-
persons coming with Jacob to
Yeah.
Egypt.
Yeah.
All the persons coming with Jacob to Egypt, his own descendants, aside from the wives of Jacob's son, 66 persons in all. And Joseph's sons who were born to him in Egypt numbered 2 persons. All the people of Jacob's household who came to Egypt, 70. Remember I said every letter has a numerical value. Right? Erase this because we're going to need this. And everything has a meaning. Nothing's coincidence. Coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. Okay? I didn't come up with that. I don't know who did, but I'd attribute it to them. I don't know who did, but at first I heard it. I love that line. So, 70 of them. In 70, the Hebrew letter is Ayin. That's the letter that has a numerical value of 70. Ayin. Ayin has another meaning. Does anyone know what Ayin means?
I?
Hi. Okay, so Ayin always has to do with the eye, therefore it has to do with seeing. Physical manifestation. Okay? Remember the number. It'll be very important in this context. So they all come, 70 of them come, and everything's beautiful.
How come it says here the Torah lists only 69 persons?
I don't know the commentary you're looking at.
Oh, it's in that, it's over here.
Yeah, I don't bother reading the commentaries. Commentaries I don't even
Oh,
bother
no,
reading.
it's not
Well,
the commentary, it's
maybe
in
they're
this
not
box.
including
Yeah,
Joseph.
that's commentary, yeah.
Oh, it's
They're
not.
probably not including Joseph.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All the pieces 70.
And
I
then
assume that's
Oh, and somebody was born in the entrance to
Yeah.
Egypt, okay.
Okay.
So is that Benjamin's
So-
son?
They're all there, they got 70 people, and they go, and everything is hunky-dory, everything is fine, and Jacob is about to die, which is at chapter 47. This is really important. Again, we look at text and sometimes we say, how does it affect us today? And it does. You need to know something about Jacob. Jacob is associated with the holiday of Sukkot.
Right.
Okay, the first time the word Sukkot is mentioned in the Torah is after his dream. Jacob goes to Sukkot, a place that's called Sukkot. Jacob is about building things, which is what a sukkah is. We are taught in the Midrash that Jacob is both born on the first evening of Sukkot, and he dies ultimately on the first evening. Okay? Both born and died. Okay? Are you with me? So he's affiliated with the holiday of Sukkot. Jacob builds structures. He finds holiness in structure. He builds stones, he's constantly building things. So just remember that for a moment. So they all come, and Jacob blesses all of his children, and he gives them all blessings. That's chapter 49. Someone please turn to chapter 50 and read. By the way, does anyone know when Sukkot begins?
It's the fall, isn't it? I mean, spring. Fall.
No, it's
Oh, it's after Yom Kippur,
one.
10 days.
The
10
15th
days
of
after.
Tishri.
No.
No, I don't know anything.
So,
Go on.
I'm guessing
Tishri.
end of September, early
15th of-
October?
15th of Tishri.
Okay, think about it. Orlando answered correctly. It's not September, October.
When is it?
Thank you.
He dies and was born the 15th of Tishrei.
What's Tishrei?
Tishrei is the name of the Hebrew name of the month. We don't have, Hebrew names are not January, February, March, April, May.
No, they don't run consecutively.
Okay. Ours is a lunar calendar. And we have different names of months. Okay, we have Elul, we have Tishrei, we have Cheshvan, we'll have Adar, we'll have Shvat, we have all these different
And there's a better way to remember than by doing the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Right.
Really? Do they use those a lot?
That's where I wasn't looking them up because I'm not sure.
Okay, so.
Is it the fall or the spring?
It's the fall.
Fall,
It's the fall.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's when he dies. Now, someone please read chapter 50.
Then Joseph fell upon his father's face. He wept over him and kissed him.
Jacob dies. Go on.
Joseph ordered his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel.
What does that tell us about embalming?
Now wait, I thought Israel was Jacob.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob died.
So, but they embalmed Israel, so,
Because he was direct, he goes through things. I would imagine,
He went through
except why are they calling Jacob Israel when,
Same
I mean,
guy.
Joseph-
Same guy.
They're
Same
No,
not-
I
guy.
know.
They're not
but-
calling,
but,
Joseph fell upon his father's face. His father is Jacob or
His fa-
Israel.
His father dies and he falls upon his father's face.
So what does it say about embalming then? Besides that it was around.
Go on. What does it say about embalming?
Coach.
That they did it. And we don't.
Go on. Who says we don't?
Mortuary.
But I
No Jewish
thought
mortuary.
Joseph
No
was-
Jewish mortuary will tell you we don't embalm.
Joseph was Israel.
Remember, we learned Jacob. No, Jacob is Israel. Jacob is Israel.
are we talking about the amount of time?
Yes, but let's hold on a second. With
Oh.
embalming,
Right.
we know that we can be buried in a cave or a crypt
Right.
because of Abraham. From this we learn embalming is kosher. We can embalm. Now, we used to have a wonderful woman, Orlando's wife, who's currently in Tennessee, and she embalmed, didn't she?
Yeah.
For Roman Eden,
For who?
Roman Eden mortuary and cemetery.
Oh.
West side,
And it's a
it's not local.
whole ritual.
Oh,
We
is
do
it?
a tahara. Men do men, women do women. And put them in a tahrikan, and then put a little bit of Israel sound.
And they take out the blood, right? It's a whole process to it. So embalming is absolutely allowed in Judaism. I know most people think it's not.
I always told it wasn't.
And you may have always been told lots of things, but again, it's not my fault that people tell the wrong thing. Okay, here's the text. Jacob is embalmed. Right?
Right, okay.
I know. I'm sorry. There you go again. There goes the rabbi disillusioning you.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, no, you absolutely
And I'm
can.
not playing games on my phone, I'm making notes.
I know, I figured. That's what I have to do just now too, I
I'm
know.
playing games.
So, alright, so, go on, please continue reading. His 40-day term was completed for such as the term of the embalmed, and Egypt, go on, keep going.
Egypt bewailed him for 70 days. When his bewailing period passed, Joseph spoke to Pharaoh's household, saying, "If you please, if I have found favor..."
Parallel between how many days and how many people originally came with Jacob. Go on.
If I have found favor in your eyes, speak now in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, "My father had adjured me, saying, Behold, I am about to die. In my grave, which I have hewn for myself in the land of Canaan. There you are to bury me. Now I will go up, if you please, and bury my father. Then I will return. And Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father as he adjured you.
We're now in chapter 50, verse 7. Okay, this is they decide to go. So go to verse 12, actually. Actually, go to verse, before that, just gets easier. Okay, so, okay, go, keep going, just where you are, just keep going. Keep going.
From 7?
Verse 7. So Joseph went up to bury his father.
So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all of Pharaoh's servants, the elders of his household, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all of Joseph's household, his brothers and his father's household. Only their young children, their flocks, and their cattle did not leave in the region of Goshen.
Okay, so they take the one-day journey, go on.
And he brought up with him both chariots and horsemen, and the camp was very imposing. They came to Goren Ha'atad, which is across the Jordan, and there they held a very great and imposing eulogy. And he ordained a 7-day mourning period for his father.
Okay. He ordained a 7-day mourning period.
So that's the same as sitting Shabbat?
That's where we get it from.
When the
Oh,
Canaanite,
no, that's, we can start there. First of all, that's exactly where we get Shabbat from. That we shall have a 7-day mourning period. And the 7 days doesn't start, does it start at death? It starts at burial. Well, let's look what he does. So they have a 1-day travel and a 7-day, now he ordains it. That does not mean that they're having an ordaining something, it does not mean that we're having it this year. What does ordaining mean?
Forever.
Forever, on this date, we're gonna have a mourning period. Okay? So we have an 8-day, 7 plus 1, travel that night they have, right? So, let's look at something. What do we do when someone dies? What do we light?
Candle.
Candle.
So that's 78 days, right?
70 plus 8.
Right, okay.
Correct. So what do we do when someone mourns? We light a Shiva candle. Why? Because, for a number of reasons, one of which it says in the book of Proverbs, Nishmat Adam Neranai, the soul of the human being is the candle flame of God. In Judaism, we always light at least 2 candles or more. We light 2 for Shabbos. We light 3 or more for Havdalah. There's 3 wicks in a Havdalah candle. We light as many as 9 on Hanukkah. 8 plus the Shamash, the helper, right? But there's only one time we light 1 candle, and that is as a memorial candle. Only time we will ever light that we light 1. Always light more than 1. And for many of us, we light more than 2 on Shabbos. I am not alone in this tradition where we light 4. 2 plus our 2 children. Okay, how many do you guys light, Orlando?
I would usually do 3.
Okay. People, I know someone, Rabbi Mimi Feigelson. Mimi lights 3. She's a single woman. She lights a 3rd one for all the women who died in the Holocaust who can't light candles anymore. So you add. You don't take away in Judaism, but you can always add. Okay? So we have this 8-day festival of mourning that starts off 70 days after the 15th of Tishrei. Okay?
23rd of
25th.
Kislev. 25th of Kislev.
Okay? The date becomes the 25th of Kislev.
So,
Go on.
Jews are supposed to be buried 3 days after they die. This
Correct.
is like a lot of days afterwards.
Correct. We traditionally do 3 days. There's a lot of reasons. One of the most basic reasons, most Jewish rituals have both psychological, emotional purposes and a spiritual purpose. And nowhere do I think you find it more clearly than in our practices around death and dying and mourning. Our sages understood, and it's a truth, until you have burial, it's very surreal. It becomes real when the earth hits the casket. How many of you have buried someone you loved? Okay? Most of us are old enough to have lost our parents, at least one or a grandparent, where it may be. The reason when people say, why can't we cremate? I try and stay away from the religious, spiritual reason and say, because you know what, it's sadistic to your survivors. It's just sadistic, because they are in a limbo period for 2 weeks while the body is cremated and everything else. And it's cruel. You want to get it done quickly. It's not an issue necessarily of decomposition because you can embalm. It's actually not the reason. The reason is more that we want to get going so you can start grieving and then healing. Okay? And by the way, if it's 3 days not including holy days. So it's 3 days not including Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, etc. So if, let's say that Rosh Hashanah was on Tuesday night, and someone died on Monday, and they couldn't get to burial on Tuesday, Wednesday's first day Rosh Hashanah, Thursday's second day Rosh Hashanah, Friday's Shabbat, Saturday, they're not gonna get buried till Sunday, a week later, at the earliest. So it's 3 days not counting the holy days, okay? But so we have an 8-day festival, right? An 8-day festival that occurs beginning on the 25th of Kislev, which is 70 days after Tishrei. That make sense to everyone? Everyone follow that on a calendar issue. We're just looking at calendars, right? Hanukkah is an 8-day festival that begins on the 25th of Kislev. Our ancestors were observing an 8-day festival of lights. Let's see, this is 3,000, so roughly, I don't know, 1,500 years or whatever, prior to the Maccabees.
So prior to not having enough oil. So that was a coincidence. I know there's no coincidences, but
So,
it's funny
maybe
that
maybe the miracle of the oil happened on the same dates, maybe it was close, maybe they just overlaid the miracle on the same holiday because they were all already observing it as a yard site.
Uh-huh,
We all celebrate President's Day, right?
yeah, and it's not when the presidents were born.
But we celebrate, right? We still celebrate Washington. Go on.
I'm just a little confused. He
So-
passed on the 15th of Tishrei,
Right.
70 days passed, and then 8 days passed more.
70 days after the 15th of Tishrei is
It's
the
the
25th day of Kislev.
Okay, and so they lit at least one candle for the 8 days. For the
They lit whatever they
On
did.
the 25th.
Whatever they did, candles were being lit, because that's, in many cultures, candles are lit in memory.
But was there a separate festival happening with candles?
He says, well, no, that's a common, among most cultures, they light candles upon death. To remember death.
No, but I'm saying, was there a separate festival that goes for 8 days that was happening at that same time?
This is way before Hanukkah,
Right, okay,
and they have an 8-day festival of mourning for Jacob.
It just
okay,
happens to
but they
be
didn't do
an
that every year
overlay of the same-
afterwards.
It's ordained, so it had to be every year afterwards.
I thought it was just the 8 days after deaths.
No, we do 7 days of mourning, but we do a yard site candle every year, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, we do a yard site candle every year. Every year on the anniversary of someone's death, we light it.
Okay,
It's the 70 days of mourning.
70 days when the Egyptians mourned him. Okay? Then they had a 1+7 day festival.
But we have a
But the
7-day
travel is-
Shiva, but.
It's just
so
one
what
day.
is
They didn't
the-
go all the way back to Egypt, Israel.
What
They
is
just
the
go from
7-day days?
So the 7 day Shiva comes from the 7 days of mourning that are there.
Following burial.
Okay?
um,
They bury him in the 7 days.
Okay,
Everyone follow this or no?
I kinda,
Okay.
I'm
no,
totally following it now, yes.
Okay, let me do it again, okay?
no, I mean, I'm following it, it's the one day of travel, so it's 7 days of Hanukkah.
Okay, wait,
7
no,
days of-
no.
It's not 8
He
days.
he dies on the 15th of Tishrei. Everyone good on that?
Yes.
Okay. Good. After 70, there's a 70-day period. Okay?
Right,
Okay? Then there is an 8-day festival, which is not actually 8 days, it's actually 1+7.
so, but I thought they were taking him to bury him.
That's the one day. They take him and bury him.
And so the festival is when they're traveling and
No.
burying somebody?
No. They get there. It only takes them a day to get there.
Right,
It doesn't take a full day to get there. They have that plus 7. They have an 8-day an 8-day period, okay?
Is the
Right.
7-day festival,
Good
is
travel,
that the Shiva?
one day back
Okay.
then from Egypt to,
You're not going, you're only going to Goshen. They're not going that far.
So this is not, the year that Jacob died, it's not really a
It's like
festival.
crossing the valley.
It's the next year
like
they do
crossing
the
the valley.
festival,
is
right?
it?
Except they probably were
He
moving
ordains that it will be a holiday forever, that we will remember Jacob.
Oh, okay,
Okay?
right.
We will always have this time period that will always for always be a remembrance of Jacob.
Oh, okay,
And it begins 70 days after his death.
okay, all right.
70 days after his death is the 25th of Tishrei. I'm sorry,
Kislev.
Of Kislev, thank you. Okay? That's where that goes. Everyone with me now?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
which coincidentally,
Which is coincidentally or not, ends up becoming Hanukkah.
Okay.
Okay? Now, where's your other sign that this is true? How many of you have lit Hanukkah candles? Said those blessings. And what do we say in those blessings? The first blessing is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu v'hadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to light the Hanukkah candles. There's two types of blessings. Okay? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, brings forth bread from the world. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam Borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth fruit of the vine. Then you have this other model of a blessing, where it's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, fill in the blank. This asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu means that has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to
Right, do whatever.
do whatever. These two formulas tell you everything about what you're doing. If it is a biblical commandment, it will always be Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. Blessed are you, Lord God, who the universe has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to. Because where does the commandment come from? It comes from here. Follow me?
Yeah.
You got that look on your face.
I'm following you.
Okay. Okay?
Clear as mud.
If it's not a biblical commandment, it'll just be Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. She'achiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higyanu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Lord God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Is it a biblical commandment to say a blessing before bread? No. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who brings forth fruit of the vine. Is it a biblical commandment to drink before drink? Baruch atah, blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us upon the washing of hands. Is that a biblical commandment or not?
Should be.
It
Wash your
is.
hands.
It is. Baruch atah Adonai. Okay.
It is? It's in the Bible, you gotta wash your hands?
It's inferred from the Bible. We get that from there.
I didn't know that.
Let me say blessing first of all. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer et achadam b'chokma v'rovo nekavim. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has whatever it may be. If it doesn't say sanctified us, it's not biblical. If it does say sanctified us, it is. So now let's look for a moment. Everyone follow me so far.
Yeah, if you sanctify, you do.
So let's look at the Hanukkah blessings. Blessed are you, O Lord. There's 3, aren't there? The first night and then 2 every other night. Got 2 every night. Third one on the first night is just because the first night we're doing it. Jachiyah. Okay? The 2 that we do every night of Hanukkah, coming up shortly, is blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with your commandments and commanded us to kindle the lights of Hanukkah. Hanukkah meaning dedication. That's biblical. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who did wondrous things for our ancestors in days of old at this season. Shasa nisim avotenu b'anim hayam basman hazeh. Right? Second one, is it biblical or not?
No.
Why do we do 2 blessings? Because the first one is biblical and the second one's not. The second one is about the wondrous things for our ancestors in days of old at this season. The oil,
Yeah.
the military victory. Go on.
Military victory in the oil. Question.
Yeah.
Now, having light is important, and the fact that the lights kept going for the full 8 days, that's really awesome. Were they lighting the candles though because of Jacob? I mean, not Jacob.
What does this infer?
Israel.
What does this tell you? Same guy.
Same
What does
guy.
this tell you?
I'm saying that's why they had that, why it was so important to keep those lights going in the first place.
Well, the light that was going was actually not, was the eternal light, the Ner Tamid. You can use any oil for memorial candles,
Okay.
but you had to have the holy oil for the holy light.
Alright, so I was connecting things that didn't need to be
You
connected.
don't need to connect, but there's
I like it, it romanticizes
well,
it a bit more.
then you know what?
Just saying.
Do it. Okay. All right. So, why two blessings? Because we're observing two aspects of the same holiday. Sha'asa nisim la'otenu, who did wondrous things for our ancestors in the days of old, Maccabees. Who sanctified us through the commandments and commanded us to light these lights, Jacob. You liked that, didn't you?
Not
Also,
Israel, but Jacob. Okay.
Also,
I'm
it
making
seems
the
like
connection. Yeah.
one is kind of more earthly and the other is more spiritual.
You want to interpret it that way?
I mean, you have that
I interpret both spiritual.
duality.
I interpret both as spiritual, and we'll get to that when we get to Hanukkah.
Well, I didn't think whether you're doing the motzi, whatever, because they're earthly things.
Well, but, you know, the Maccabees are kind of of the earth and Jacob is,
Well, but we're going to learn about that, and there's a reason when we get to Hanukkah, which I may just take a break and do Hanukkah next week.
I don't know.
Hanukkah has so much more hidden in it. The dreidel is a holy object of teaching.
Really?
It's not just a toy. Okay, it's a holy object of teaching, because the miracle comes from above and comes down without us having to do anything. So there's a whole, as opposed to the
That's why
grog.
we wear a kippah.
Okay, so it's beautiful. So the point is that's another hint that this holiday is biblical. Well, Maccabees take place after this whole book is done.
Yeah, that's true.
So how can it be a biblical holiday?
It was a good guess.
Until you realize. But my point is, it's all right there. Now, when I first learned this, that Sukkot and Hanukkah were tied together in Jacob's death.
Well, I always knew that Sukkot and Hanukkah because of the 70-odd day spread.
But I had no idea that I didn't know about this, that there was actually this holiday, that time to Hanukkah.
Well, if you didn't know it, then how did I learn it?
Well, you may have learned it last year, but I'm saying, but I didn't know it, right? When I didn't know it, I didn't know it. And then when I learned, I thought this was the coolest thing in the world, right? So I go to all my Reform and Conservative friends, they have no idea about it. My Conservative and Reform colleagues, they don't know nothing about this. I go to my Orthodox rabbi friends, they go, well, of course, it says so in the Torah. Why? Because we're so conditioned to think in a Christian solar calendar. We think of January. I asked, when is Sukkot? September, fall. No, it's the 15th of Tishrei every year.
Okay.
Every year it's the 15th of Tishrei.
And there's very little coalition. Okay.
But because we think in the Hebrew calendar, we don't bother. So if you think in the Hebrew calendar, then all of a sudden you're saying, well, of course, 70 days is after the 15th. It's the 22nd. That's a problem.
So there's still 12 months in the.
With a leap month. We have a leap month every certain number of years. Our calendar is very precise and very bizarre. That's why you have a leap month that comes in. That's why the holidays are never on time, they're later.
The names
early.
are great.
It's called second Adar, there's Adar too. And that's why the holidays are never on time, they're always early or late. They're never, okay? So, but the point is that Hanukkah is going around prior to Jacob, or prior to the Maccabees, we're already celebrating an 8-day festival beginning on the 25th of Kislev. Looks like that.
Yeah.
Okay? I want to see something. Okay, I got time. What time is it?
It is 5 after 9.
Do we want to go a couple more minutes on this Hanukkah Sukkot connection?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
go for it.
What do you build in what's a sukkah? A sukkah is a temporary structure. We talked about this during Sukkot. A sukkah is a temporary structure.
Well, it's also a retreat.
It's a temporary structure.
But doesn't it also have fruit and vegetables?
Yeah.
and
It's a
things
temporary
that-
structure.
That's all?
It also has things
That's
like
cut.
It's a
chants.
temporary
What?
structure.
You bring your children and they make things out of paper. I mean,
It's a temporary structure.
Okay.
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 Everything else
Alright.
is
Brick.
Okay? It's a temporary structure. But it's the beginning of a building, and in fact, the model of the temple is actually built on the model of a sukkah.
Okay, and the tie-in with Jacob is the builder?
Jacob is the builder. Now, what's the one thing you'll never find in a sukkah?
Filet mignon.
No, you got something. You'll never find a pig.
And their tummy.
A ner tummy, an eternal
A
light.
what?
An eternal light.
Oh.
So I don't even know what the eternal light is.
Eternal light is the light that is kept on top of the ark where we keep the Torah.
Right,
Okay.
Don't find
I didn't know it
you
was
don't
called
find that.
that. Before.
Now.
Just call it the light.
You don't have light. But you do have everything else you can put into a sukkah. I mean, you dwell in the sukkah. I mean, our sukkah is a very flexible sukkah
Yeah, you
because
play mahjong.
we play mono, we have poker, we have
Your bubby.
we have everything in our sukkah. We have tequila and Talmud in the sukkah. We have everything in the sukkah. We have hookah in the sukkah. And then after everyone leaves, we clear it out and we put in 2 queen-size air mattresses with lots of blankets, and our children and my wife and I, we all sleep in there.
Are you supposed to sleep in there?
Yes, yes. You're supposed
Oh,
to
you
dwell in it.
are?
Absolutely, you're supposed to dwell in it.
Oh.
Absolutely. So it's, if we didn't have temple programming all the time, we would make it a little bit differently and we'd just have dinners there for people. But, so that's what, right?
And it's warm.
And it's warm and it's
And
very
what's-
loving.
And the
What is
dreams.
sukkah
And you
for?
dream.
the dreams.
What's sukkah
That's,
for?
we're gonna get, that's a whole other,
Oh.
when we get to holidays. But, just in terms of relationship of Sukkot to Hanukkah, just this 70-day period. In Sukkot, you were building the basic essence of a structure. Now, there is a period called the counting of the Omer between Passover and Shavuot. Okay? The holiday of the Exodus and the holiday of getting the Torah at Mount Sinai. And during this period, these 49 days, there are meditations for each of those 7 weeks. It's called the counting of the Omer. Okay? And that there's a meditation for each of your energy centers. The lower 7. We'll get to that too, don't worry. But there are lower 7 in your body, and then there's 3 outside your body. These 7 qualities, each week is a different aspect of them.
So it's not like chakras we're talking about here.
We'll get to it when we get to it. It's similar, but it's not. So you are right, it is similar, but it's both. Okay?
Okay.
We'll get there, don't worry.
Okay.
But now, instead, we have a 10-week meditative period, where on Sukkot, first night of Sukkot, we now have a 10-week period, 10 periods of 7. So we can only do the bottom 7, but the upper 3. To manifest what we want to do. Because what's the last thing when you build a building you're able to do? You turn on the lights. Last thing you're going to have in the building. Everything, plumbing's not ready, turn on the power. Everything's ready to go. We have, it's a 10-week period of meditation and action to create our own temple. I mean, shul, I mean, our own temple, whatever you want to manifest in your life, whether it's relationship, prosperity, whatever it is. It's a 10-week period that we use from the very beginning of the building blocks of Sukkot, during the first night of Sukkot, all the way till we get through Hanukkah, which is the period where we're finally turning on the lights and manifesting it all fully. That's the purpose of this 10 weeks that we're in the midst of right now.
It all leads up to turning on the lights, also known as the menorah.
Menorah, which is, I have my, the one the boys make. We have many menorahs, Hanukkahs in this
So
house.
when do you turn on the lights?
When we light the lights for Hanukkah.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So the point is that there's a 10-week period of creation, of going inward during the winter to create something.
All menorahs are a Hanukkah, but not all Hanukkahs are menorah.
No.
It's the other way.
The other way around, okay, I knew it.
A Hanukkah has 9 branches,
Right,
a menorah has 7.
What's a Hanukkah?
What you light on what we light on Hanukkah.
Oh, I thought it was a menorah.
The actual name is called Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Okay?
Because it has 9
Mm-hmm.
So a
candles.
menorah, which was in the temple, is 3, 3, and 1. It's 7 branches.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
it's not,
But
No, it's not the same thing.
couldn't be even be 4 or 5.
I don't think so.
And
It has to be
menorah.
7, as far as I know. It has to be 7. As far as I know, yeah. Doesn't mean I'm right, but as far as I know. So there's a connection between these holidays, and we find it all right here, right in Torah. Okay? It's right there. It's not Talmud. It's what their commentaries start going into in Talmud, because right here in chapter 50 of the book of Genesis, we learn that there is this period. Very, very powerful. And so Jacob dies, and ultimately Joseph will die at the end of this book, not much farther along.
110.
Okay? Joseph said to his brothers, I'm about to die, but God will surely remember you and bring you out of this land, to the land that he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph adjured the children of Israel, saying, when God will indeed remember you, then you must bring my bones up out of here. You got to take Joseph's bones with him. Joseph died at the age of 110 years. They embalmed him, and he was placed in a coffin. In Egypt, chazak, chazak, and chazak, be strong, and we will be strengthened. And that is how the book of Genesis, book of Bereshit, ends. But it's really important to understand how all of this is tying together. Because we're going to start seeing now recapitulations of these stories over and over in different ways. Okay?
Oh, they're in order here. I'm just looking.
The Shemot, yes, they're very much more. That's why it's called names. Book of Exodus is actually called Shemot, meaning names. We'll get to that next week. Does that answer, how is that for everyone? Some new information?
Well, I'm looking at the first night of Hanukkah completely in a different light.
Now, we're going to go over
So to
Hanukkah.
speak, the pun.
We're going to go over Hanukkah later on, but there's a great, Hanukkah is a very, very important holiday and very powerful holiday. When you learn, when you're a child, you think it's very important because of gifts. Then you get older and you think it's not important because who cares about a holiday with gifts? And then you become older and hopefully wiser and more educated, and you say, wow, this is really a very important holiday because it's tied to Sukkot, and it's Jacob's death, and it's his memorial, and it's Maccabees, and what the Maccabees are about.
And all of a
So
sudden your
how do
grandparent.
you do it? Basically it's a holiday of mourning,
Okay?
but yet it's a
It's a festival
joyous
of mourning.
festival.
It's a festival of mourning. Do you light a yard side candle for someone you love, for a
Yes.
parent? Your mom still alive?
No,
Light a candle for her?
yes.
Why?
Because it was taught to.
Okay, it's tradition, okay. When you light the candle, does it make you sad?
Sometimes,
Does it make you happy? That you had her?
okay. Yeah,
Does that mean it's supposed to be a celebration? Or what?
Or what?
Okay.
The idea of being willing to go into our pain, but it's also, look, eventually, is there someone that you love that you light a candle for, that died a long time ago?
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Okay? When we light the candle for them, is it only sadness, or is there also joy?
It's
Joy.
fine.
I mean, look, I light a candle for my grandmother as an example. It's
Right.
crazy, okay? I light a candle for my brother, who died at a young age, 47, because of an aneurysm. And when I light a candle for him, it is bittersweet. Because I think, I wish he were here. I wish he could see his nephews, right? I light a candle for my grandmother. Well, she died at 100 years old. Okay? There's not a lot of sadness. I mean, I miss her, I love her, I miss her. But there is the what is this? Oh, this is business card that
So
just was left
do
here.
you have to light a candle for everybody?
No, you don't have to light a candle except for the 7 primary relationships and
And what are the primary?
children, God forbid, pui pui, father, mother, brother, sister, spouse.
And children?
God forbid.
Okay.
There's something to that, just because.
But because you're obligated to doesn't mean
You do.
you can't do it for other people too.
Okay.
But I know that I was asked to, for my grandfather, because there was supposedly no one left to do it for him, who had anything of his, which I always thought was kind of cop out, but I do it anyway.
So you look, you light a candle,
Grandparents.
and what happens when you light the candle, right? There's a part when you light a candle for your grandparents. Is there a lot of sadness or joy? Is there also you miss them, but there's a depth, right?
Memories,
Yeah.
joy memories.
There's both. So is it a festival, yeah, miss Jacob. But I'm also grateful for all that Jacob did. Right? So it's all of these kind of things. And Hanukkah is not just happy. There's a lot of stuff there. Okay? So
Guilt.
what's guilt you said?
Yeah.
You say guilt or guilt?
Oh, yes.
My house,
So-
The
both.
other,
So, well, that reminds me, I gotta order a bunch of chocolate milk online. So,
Amazon's really
I gotta just order it, so it's always get the dark chocolate, cause it's part of,
Yeah.
milk chocolate's not the dark chocolate, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, the point is that this all ties together. Does that make, do you guys follow this?
It's incredibly logical. It folds in with a lot of things I haven't thought about in a very long time. It's also kind of nice to remember it at this point in time.
Yeah, no, it's good that we're doing it right now.
I mean, following a death and going into the light.
And it's a statement that we have, we'll get into what Hanukkah, other meanings of Hanukkah, but the point is that there is all of this stuff, and but so much of it is right there in the text, but we don't bother looking at it. Whether it's this date thing, or whether it's, well, how did Joseph show himself to his brothers? How did they know he's actually his brother,
No, I'm gonna tell that one to my wife.
right? It's an easy answer,
Yeah, easier than you know.
right? It's pretty simple. All those kind of things.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, see what it gets
They
you.
don't do that in a musical.
No.
Not with Donny Osmond.
Then it would have been hair
I
instead of
yeah, I
Joseph.
just cannot
Or Oh Calcutta.
see. Yeah, I just can't see Donny Osmond going, look.
Right.
So that answers
With the
that
word?
question. So we'll do next week as well. Okay, we'll start, and then we'll get into Hanukkah, and we'll get into Shemot, and we'll get into Exodus, and we'll start getting some very intense stuff. Okay, we'll take it from there.